Hey guys, welcome back to Vertical Momentum. I'm your host, Richard Kaufman, also known as the Comeback Coach. Guys, thank you so much for showing up every week. I just want to let you know, first of all, our new swag is in. The swag says, I win. And on the back says, I'm a winner. If you pick up any of the swag today, 100% of the proceeds go to help end veteran suicide and veteran homelessness. Also, I want to thank Celsius Energy. Thank you so much for keeping me up and motivated. I want to give a big shout out to Mr. Sam Rivera. Without him, this would not be possible. And Mr. Sean Anthony, thank you for putting me and Sayam together. Guys, this is going to be an awesome topic. We're going to be talking about real estate. This is going to be a real estate masterclass, but we're going to get a different spin on it because when I was growing up, and I was raised by a colored family, we never talked about real estate. We never talked about wealth. We talked about going to work, a lunch pail, working hard, putting in the hours, but we never talked about building generational wealth. And that's what we're going to be talking today. Mr. Sayam, welcome to the show, my brother.
Thank you for having me on, man. I'm going to have to get me one of those shirts.
All right. I'll give you the information. So first question I have right off the get, because I do have a traumatic brain injury. If I don't ask, I'll forget. What is your definition of resiliency? Because I know growing up in the main streets of the city, you had to be very resilient coming up because you came from New York.
Yeah.
So what is resilience to you?
Yeah, no, resilience is just pushing through and never giving up. Right. Even if odds are against you, if you find struggles, because in any business, in any person's life, whether you come from money or none, there's going to be struggles. Right. So resilience is believing yourself, believing that you can, and pushing through no matter what, because the end goal is worth it.
I love that. So let's hop in the Wayback Machine. We're going to get into the DeLorean. We're going to go way back, because if somebody would have told you as a young child, your parents come from Ecuador, Ethiopia. I'm sure there weren't many Ecuadorian or Ethiopian people were talking about real estate, talking about wealth.
Sure.
They're just talking about surviving a lot of times.
Yes.
So take us back to when you were a kid and growing up. What was that like, especially growing up in the hustle and grind of New York City?
Yeah. So my mother is Dominican. I'm from the Dominican Republic. My father's from Ethiopia, and both of them are immigrants, and they landed in New York City, right? The melting pot of the world. So we grew up on the Lower East Side, Alphabet City, and literally the place that we were renting for under $300 a month is now a $7,000 a month apartment, right? So it was all five of us, me, my two brothers, both my parents, and we lived in a 1-bedroom apartment, right? So my parents were driven. They were destined to make sure that their kids had a better life than they did, and they came to this country, like many people before them, for a better life. All right, my father was a taxi driver, a yellow cab driver in Manhattan for 21 years. My mother was a hairstylist. She took care of kids. She did babysitting. So both of them worked very, very hard. They saved money, and they eventually opened up their own small little business. And what they wanted for us is they wanted a different life. They wanted things to be easier for their kids, and that's so common amongst immigrants that come to this country looking for a better life. And I remember at the time, my friends wanted to go out. They wanted me to go out, play basketball, ride their bike around town, and my dad would be like, "Nah, read a book." All right. And I would be furious at the time. You know how you're a kid. "Oh, Dad, I hate you. Why would you make me do this?" Right. But in all reality, it paid off, because that work ethic, that hard work, that desire for something better, all paid out in the end, right? I ended up getting a scholarship to go to an amazing university, Georgetown University, coming out of high school. I ended up working on Wall Street. All this was never planned. It was not supposed to happen for someone like me, if that makes sense. It really opened the doors for me. I left Wall Street cold turkey because I wasn't happy there. right? I didn't have the freedoms that I was looking for in life. I didn't want someone to tell me when I could or could not spend time with my loved ones. And I was working 80 plus hours a week. So I was in the grind of corporate America. I was in the rat race, or so you say, right? I left that, and following that, I decided I didn't know what to do. I went out and started buying and selling cars, started flipping motorcycles, and I landed on real estate. And so that's how I got to where I am today. All right. We've done quite a bit of real estate since then, but my journey wasn't a straight line.
All right. So let's talk about your dad a little bit, because my dad came over from Italy, hardworking package mechanic, did whatever he could to put food on the table, didn't speak the language, bought 2 houses, paid cash, hustle and grind, worked 6 days a week. But, thinking about your dad driving a taxi back then, he was probably working for somebody else. And, those medallions back then, they were like $250K.
Yeah, they were pretty penny.
So he was probably hustling. Now, was he reading books at this time too, that he was telling you, passing them down?
He was not. He was too busy working. My dad pulled 12-hour days, right? Plus many times. He worked 6 days a week like your father. So he was too much in the grind to put food on our table that he wasn't able to better himself, right? Yes, he saved some money. Yes, he eventually opened up a business, but that was all by pure grind, right? Pure determination. But he definitely knew that the way for an easier life was through books, through education. And so that's why he was so adamant on that with me and my brothers.
All right. So now I grew up in the streets of Newark. And if I ever talked about entrepreneurship back then, they're either like, okay, what kind of drug are you selling?
Yeah.
Or would it be, well, that's not for you. That may be for somebody else, but that's just not for you. Did you ever hear that maybe entrepreneurship and real estate may not be for you?
Yeah, of course. That was for other people, right? Not for people that look like me. I've told people told me tons of times, nah, you can't do it. Nah, it's impossible. It's never going to work. Right. And I look at those people as naysayers. I kind of just tune them out because I believe in myself. I heard a quote, a couple of years back that if you believe you can, if you believe you can't, you're right. All right. And I took that to heart, and I try to approach everything with a positive attitude, because how you approach anything has a huge impact as to whether you're successful or not. Right. Your mind controls your body. And if your mind doesn't believe it, your body's not going to believe it, and it's not going to push forward to make it happen. So it all starts right here. A lot of people's obstacles, a lot of people's frustrations, a lot of people's limits are placed right here.
Yeah, and I believe in, when I talk to my clients that I have, it's sometimes you got to change your BS, your belief systems. You have to change the mindset. But all right, so because I remember, I could tell you exactly what book changed my life, and I've even had the authors of that purple book on this show. What were some of the books that your dad started getting you into?
Yeah, absolutely. This was a little later in my life, but Rich Dad Poor Dad, right, was one that was, I thought, phenomenal. And then later on, it was funny because my father had this thing that if you didn't write well, you wouldn't be able to, communicate well. So he would make me literally copy pages of a book. He'd say, all right, copy 10 pages today onto paper. And I can remember the tears coming down just with the frustration, like, no, I didn't want this. Another book that was very instrumental in my whole business is something called the E-Myth, right? Yep. And because I was the one doing everything in the business in the beginning, and you can't grow and really scale a business if you're doing everything. So the E-Myth talks about the technician, the manager, the entrepreneur, and how it all and what everyone's roles are and how you approach a business. And that really sat with me. Right. And changed how I operate everything. Now we try to put everything in systemized. We try to take ourselves out of the equation. Sometimes it's a struggle. It's hard to trust people sometimes, right? And to take over your responsibilities. But those are the 2 books that were probably the most influential in my career. Right. And that E-Myth book allowed us to really scale our real estate business. I'm not sure if any of your audience is familiar, but we've been in this business now for 15 years. And we've purchased over $250 million in real estate, and we built a night-sized rental portfolio of over 600 doors. So we're well versed in the space. We've done new construction, fix and flips, rentals, multifamily projects, and our most recent project is a hotel in the Caribbean.
All right, I'll be there. Tell me when you want me to go to there. We just got back from our second cruise this year to the Caribbean. I love it. But let's talk about Georgetown, because two of my favorite basketball players and one of my favorite coaches, Mr. Thompson,
John Thompson,
all time. But you had a Mr. Patrick Ewing,
yes,
was known as a grinder, hustler, pushed the limits, did all the dirty work. Then you had a guy named Mr. AI, Allen Iverson, also another hustler, another grinder. So what was it like going to Georgetown, and why did you pick Georgetown? And what was it like being on campus, knowing that there was legendary people, including Mr. Thompson, that were there? And because sometimes when you go to a certain place, even if they're not there, there's a feeling of like, I'm a University of Miami guy, and I know when I go to the U, I feel the presence of Ray Lewis, Ed Reed. So what was it like walking on the campus of Georgetown?
Oh man, it was a beautiful thing. Again, that was something that was never supposed to be there, right? Someone like me has never supposed to be there. I mean, the minority population of Georgetown is under 10%. So it's an expensive school. It's an amazing school. I was on the verge of going to Rutgers, actually, because I was growing up in Jersey, going to Rutgers because I had a full ride scholarship to Rutgers because of the hard work and studying that my parents made me do, and I was on the verge of doing that, and then I ended up getting a pretty nice sized scholarship to Georgetown, and it just landed in my lap that I ended up becoming a Jackie Robinson scholar. Right. So the Jackie Robinson Foundation out of New York City, they helped sponsor my college, and ended up actually being, very, very, a very, very great resource for me, because through them I was able to get my spot on Wall Street, work at the company I worked at, one of the largest firms on Wall Street, and it was absolutely amazing, right? They provided me with an amazing network, but being at Georgetown was just awesome, right? And I was at a time where we had some good players. We had a great team and a great roster. So, Jeff Green, Roy Hibbert were there when I was in school.
Yeah.
So it was a lot of fun. The city of DC is just an amazing city to be in, right? It's very hard to leave DC when I go back, just like when you go to University of Miami. It feels like a second home, right? And it's just so much, culture in that city. Luckily, I went there with my girlfriend at the time, who's now my wife. All right, we're high school sweethearts. She grew up with me in Jersey, and so I had her as support as well. And my dad's entire family is in the Virginia area, so it just felt like a right place for me. Felt like an amazing spot, and it opened up a lot of doors. So it was definitely the right choice.
All right, so let's talk about Wall Street.
Sure.
I have several friends that are now retired from Wall Street, and I've heard a lot of great things about Wall Street. Mm-hmm. But then I also know there's the 80-hour grind.
Yes.
There's the hustle. There's the you don't have a day off.
Yes.
Because even when the exchange is closed, you're still studying. You're still hustling and grinding.
Yep.
So you have the people that So I actually talked to Jordan Belfort, Wolf of Wall Street. But now tell me how true it really is, because I love the movie Pursuit of Happiness. It's one of my favorite movies of all time. So what was it like? Was it hard getting a job in Wall Street? Not looking like the average people would think the average Wall Street guy would look like?
Yeah, of course. I definitely wasn't the average, right? Looking guy there. I was able to get that opportunity through networking, right? So I told you I was Jackie Robinson scholar, and in that there's events they host in New York City, and I happened to stumble upon a partner that worked at Goldman Sachs that was a sponsor of this scholarship. So I'm a big person that if I meet someone, I'm going to latch on. We're going to keep in contact, and because that's how I believe you can eventually work together with that person if it's something you want. So I did that. I was persistent. I kept emailing, I kept calling, and eventually it's like, gosh, you're not going to stop, are you? So well, sure, just come into the office and spend a day in the office and see what you think about it. And through that, I met people, ended up getting an internship there, and ended up getting the job. So it was hard. It was hard work. It was drive. It was determination. The same things instilled in me by my parents that ended up landing me that opportunity on Wall Street. But to answer your question, the money is awesome. There's very few industries out there where the money is as great as Wall Street, right? However, the lifestyle just wasn't for me. I had to be in the office at 5 a.m. every day because we had a 5:15 call between the international offices that I had to lead because I was the junior person on the team, right? So that was a must. So I was taking the PATH train from Jersey City to get there on time, and then I wouldn't leave daily. I would never leave between 9, 10 p.m. on a night, every night, and sometimes be there till 11 p.m. at night, running reports and things. And I did that Monday through Saturday. It just wasn't for me, right? I was an international sales trader on futures, which I had to cover different desks from Asia to Europe to the United States. Like I said, the money's great, but the lifestyle is rough. And I think it's a great platform for you to launch to do whatever you want to do. But it just was never something I saw myself doing long term.
Okay, now, like I said, I have a lot of friends that were on Wall Street. I talked to Jordan, and I think for me, the best things about sales is either you do door to door or you do phone calls, because you got if you're going to be successful in sales, you got to learn to take a shit ton of no's.
Yeah,
and just keep dialing. And then learning how to talk to people, learning how to hit pain points. So how important do you think that training was into being as successful as you are today?
Oh, it was crucial. Through it, I mastered the ability to communicate and talk to people. Through it, I learned how to run spreadsheets, which I use for my properties when I'm going to model a property going in. Right. Through that experience, I learned how to build, thick skin, right? Because like you said, you're going to hear no a lot. And on Wall Street, it's true. You'll get cursed out a lot too, all right? So I definitely lived that, all right? And so all that stuff molded me to who I am today. Because in real estate, although it's a different lifestyle, a lot of it's very similar, where you have to have thick skin. If you're calling sellers and asking them and trying to buy a property from them, you got to have thick skin. We get cursed out. We get told no, right? But what I learned on Wall Street is that for every no you hear, you're one step closer to a yes. All right, and that's something that my boss told me, and it kind of resonated with me. So sales is a numbers game. Right. And if you've been in it long enough, you know how many people you need to speak to get a deal, right? To get a yes. So if that number in my real estate business, that number is about 20 to 25 sellers on average. We need to speak to 20 to 25 sellers on average to get a yes. So I've heard 15 no's, and that might discourage some people. But hey, what? That means I'm only 10 on average away from hearing a yes. So that gives you a little bit of excitement, gives you motivation to keep calling, keep trying, because you know that yes is around the corner.
But now also, the stock market is a very temperamental beast.
Yes.
Like something can happen, like happened in 2008.
Yes.
Or something can happen like what happened on Tuesday when we got getting elected a new president. Where now the stock market's zooming, but something could come over the news and the stock market starts tanking. But a lot of people don't realize in business or in the stock market or even in real estate, it's like golf. You got to learn to play the short game and the long game.
Correct.
Because if you have a great long game, but you can't putt worth of shit, you're not going to win. If you can putt but you don't have a long game, you're not going to win. So how important is it to look at what's happening now, but also making sure that you're playing the long game in business?
Oh, absolutely. And that actually ties into something that I try to teach my people that I work with, very, 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 very well. So whenever you approach any real estate deal, right, and this is any business period, you need to have multiple exit strategies, right? You need to have your short-term exit strategy and your long-term exit strategy. So I tell my mentees, I tell people that I work with, I tell new people trying to get in the business, never do a deal with one exit strategy, because you're only one mistake away from losing money, right? So every deal that I do, every deal that I tell my mentees to do, works great for a short-term fix and flip. If the market's doing well now, great, let's take advantage and make a nice 30, 40, $50,000 pop, right? However, you also need to underwrite it as a long-term hold, because if for some reason that strategy doesn't work, the market changes, you never know what's happening in the economy. God forbid someone drops a bomb somewhere in the United States and the entire market, takes a crap, right? You need to be able to hold that long-term and still profit. So for every deal that we do, we analyze it as a rental and as a flip, and it needs to make money both ways. Otherwise, we won't do it. Sometimes the best deal you do is the one you don't do, right? So I learned that earlier on, because I took some hits when I only had one exit strategy. It's the reason we don't like doing the really high-end houses, because you can only sell them to make money. When you decide to keep them, they're losing money every month, which is not something that I enjoy to do in my real estate business.
But also, like Robert Kiyosaki and Sharon Lecter talk about in the Purple series, or the Rich Dad series, that sometimes you just have to take a walk around your neighborhood, because you don't realize, wait a minute, I didn't know cousin Jake was selling his house, or I didn't know, what's going on in my own neighborhood. Because a lot of people, they're like, well, I got to go look elsewhere, instead of just taking a walk in your neighborhood and seeing what's going on for sale. And not only looking at what's going on for sale, but then you're like, okay, what are the comps for my house?
Mm-hmm.
So talk about how important it is to know your own neighborhood.
Absolutely. To get around, walk around the neighborhood, see whose grass is tall, right? If their grass is tall, means that they're probably not maintaining the home, all right? Or they're struggling financially. See whose house looks run down in your neighborhood, right? You can get deals in your own backyard. There's deals everywhere in the country. People talk about, oh, it's hard to find deals in Florida. It's hard to find deals in New York. That's because they're not looking in the right places, right? There's deals everywhere. There's opportunities everywhere, and it is close as your own backyard. So I absolutely believe that it's great to know, the market close to home, and before you go and expand to other markets, before you decide to go across the country, know what's going on in your own backyard, because there's opportunities that are everywhere. I actually had a phone call, 2 weeks ago, where one of my mentees was saying, hey, there's my next door neighbor. All right, the house looks like it's run down, but she won't talk to me. I've called her, I've texted her, I've done all this stuff, but she won't talk to me. And I said, was this your neighbor? She's like, yeah, it's a couple houses down from me. Does she know you personally? Not really, but I've reached out to her and she won't respond. So what I told her to do is to put a for sale sign on the front yard with her phone number on it. And guess what? Within 24 hours, that lady called her back saying, who the heck are you selling my house? But she was able to get them on the phone, speak to them, all right, talk them off a ledge, and she ended up buying the deal on her own street that she didn't realize was an opportunity. So I absolutely do believe that you need to go around your neighborhood. You need to think outside the box to make deals work, and have a very good grasp before you go exploring other markets.
And I agree. Like when I had Sharon Lecter on, she said sometimes you got to kiss a lot of frogs to get a princess.
Mm-hmm.
And even in the book, in her first book, Rich Dad Poor Dad, Robert said, he looked at a lot of deals before he made his first offer, because he's like, I don't know anything about this, so I want the more properties I see, the more I'm going to learn. So let's go back and talk about Sayam and his first deal. Talk to me about your first deal ever, because I think once you get one under your belt, then you're like, okay, I learned from that. What did I mess up from that? What can I learn for the next one? So talk about your first deal ever.
So my first deal, I remember, you always never forget your first, right? My first deal was actually in Newark, New Jersey, in your streets, right? I bought a home on Thomas Street, right? Yep. It was run down. It was completely beat up, but it was surrounded by beautiful newer homes. So I was like, there must be some value here. My brothers and I, we didn't know what a deal was, right? But we knew that there was some value here. So we figured out how to get it funded. I borrowed money from various different sources, $2,000 here, $3,000 there. We bought it for $45,000. All right, so we bought it 45 grand. We renovated it. I mean, my brother even got a title loan on his car, so we were all in, right, on this deal. And we renovated it and we flipped it and sold it, and we made $60,000 in that first deal. It was our first profits in real estate. It was just very, very sweet. What we did wrong is that we tried to do a lot of things ourselves, and we weren't professionals at that. So we literally went in there. We did the demo ourselves. We went in there and we painted the house ourselves. We went in there and we tried to do a lot of things that had to be done multiple times. So I probably could have done that renovation budget for significantly less if I would have hired professionals, because I had to paint the house 3 times. We get to the open house and people are talking crap about the paint job, saying, man, what the details suck. The lines are horrible. So my brother and I are like, okay, so I guess we're going to paint this weekend again. All right. But in the end, it was successful, and it was the launching pad we need to really take off in real estate.
Okay. So like we were talking about, this is, we're really going to be talking about, Latinos and people of color. What was it like going to banks? Because I personally think that Latinos and people of color have a harder time getting loans.
It's true.
So talk to us about that aspect. When you were first talking about doing this, did you get any backlash? And how hard was it to get loans for this house?
Yeah. So the loans itself were very hard. We weren't successful in getting an actual loan for this house. So what we ended up doing is figuring out different ways to pull money. Right. I listened to a lot of people that give me insight, and they never even did the business. I heard people saying, oh, you it's impossible. You can't do it. You can't do this. But we were successful in it. We had some credit cards. We did cash advances on the cards. Yeah, I paid high interest on that, but the end result was better than the cost, right? Like I told you, we did a title loan on the car. We went all in because we didn't even realize that the resources were out there, because the people in my ear didn't believe that the resources were out there. So they caused me to not believe it. However, later on, I ended up realizing that there's a lot of money out there that people just don't know is out there. There's things called hard money if you want to go buy a real estate deal. All right. Hard money is not hard to get. It's actually very easy to get. And many lenders don't even care about your credit score. So if you come from a challenged background, if you come from a situation where maybe you don't have cash, you don't have tax returns, you know what? Most hard money lenders don't even care about this stuff. What they care about is you have a great deal, because that's what keeps their money safe. Right. And when I found hard money, I mean, it really opened up opportunities for us, because now we can do other deals. We can do multiple deals. We can expand. As we took profits and reinvested, it allowed us to really scale. I mean, I don't know if you guys ever talk about hard money on the show, but there's hard money lenders out there that will give you 95% of your purchase price, right? They'll give you 100% of your rehab. So all you really need to raise to do a deal, or find to do a deal, is 5 to 10% of the entire deal cost. So which is much easier to find than to find the entire cost, right? So you buy a house for 100K or 150, and you got to come up with 5-10%. We're talking about $7,500 to $15,000 to do the deal. I didn't have that at first, but like I said, we pulled that from everywhere: cash advances, title loans, borrowed $1,000 here, borrowed $1,000 deal. In the end, we got the deal, because you got to believe in yourself. If you don't believe in yourself, you're not going to push through to make it happen.
So how many houses did you look at before you got this house?
Yeah, we looked at so many. I was watching TV shows, Flip This House on A&E and some of those shows, and I was like, man, it always looks so fun. I know I can do it. I know I can do it. I was scared. We probably looked at no lie, close to 100 homes before we pulled the trigger on our first one. And not because those 100 homes didn't look good. I just was scared and didn't know what a deal looked like, right? And it wasn't until we found this one house. It was down the street from where I was working. So it was easy to kind of hop out on my lunch break, come work on the house after work, work it on the weekends. And it was surrounded by nicer homes. So I believe that there was an uplift in value in this home because of the homes around it. And we took a gamble. We went all in.
Well, and I think that's something I think we should talk about is, people are, when they look to go buy a home, they're always looking for the best home in the best neighborhood. But like my brother and sister-in-law, they found a nice place in Boonton, New Jersey, and it had the worst house in it.
Mm-hmm.
And they knocked it down and they rebuilt it. And now when they finally sold, they sold it for like 1.7 billion. But they knew, okay, we're going to be here. We're going to work around it, but we're going to find the worst house in the best neighborhood, and we're gonna build from there. So how important sometimes is looking through the nice neighborhoods. We're looking for like, man, that place is down and out. Let's get that place, because once you get it, you almost have equity if you're in
Yeah.
some of these nice neighborhoods with comps.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, the biggest thing in real estate is location, 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 right? If you've talked to anyone in real estate, talk about the importance of location, the importance of being in a neighborhood that has appeal to it. So I did the same thing. Every single time I've ever lived in a house, I looked for the worst house in the block, right? We found the areas that my wife and I wanted to be in. And then we did some marketing, we did some door knocking, some door hanging. We walked the neighborhoods, just like you said before, and we found the ugliest homes in the block and we bought them. So even the house I'm living in right now, you see this beautiful, I got a lake behind me, got trees, everything behind me, gated community. My wife wanted to live in this neighborhood in an area called Pembroke Pines, Florida.
Yep.
And I said, and the houses at the time were going for like 1.2, $1.3 million. And she started looking at these retail homes. I was like, honey, I'm in real estate. I can't pay retail, right? I gotta find the deal. And so, I did some marketing. I looked for people that were that were delinquent on their homes. And I found a seller that, just had a rough time. He was a pilot. He lost his job. He got sick. And so he fell behind on his payments. And it took a lot of follow-up, right? Getting a deal sometimes is just being the most persistent and following up. I called him every month, right? And then COVID happened, and he stopped answering my phones because his foreclosure got postponed. Right, there was a moratorium on foreclosures. Finally, when it was coming towards the end of COVID, his auction day came back, and he called me. He called me, but still called him every month throughout COVID, whether he picked up the phone or not. Shot him a text, called him, hey, just to let you know I'm interested. He finally said, hey, you still want the house? I said, yes. I thought the past year and a half, 2 years of me contacting you showed that. And he says, all right, great. Well, the auction date's a week from now. If you want it, you can buy it. So, this was at the time we were buying it for $750K, needed about 100K renovations. And I got the money together, put hard money, was able to get the hard money lender to close, and we bought the home and stopped the auction on the auction day. Right. Through our renovations, the house almost doubled in value. The house is a $1.6 million house all day long. And it was all because we picked the neighborhood we want, the location we want, but found the ugliest house on the block. It had roof leaks, kitchen was damaged, both AC systems didn't work, and in Florida, no AC is tough, right? So it needed work, and through the ugliness and the rundown and the dilapidation of the house, we found the gem.
Okay, so but now what? Like I had a gentleman on. He used to be a part owner of the Texas Rangers. He was a millionaire, but he was in the oil business. And he told me on the show that we won't even put the drill into the ground until we have an exit strategy. And he says we won't even start drilling until we know what the ending is going to look like. Absolutely. Like for me, I don't think the way you're talking, the way you act, this is not your last home.
No.
So I think this is just for now. So talk about how important it is to have an exit strategy. Like for me, I know possibly this house may not be my last, but I know I'm going to look at houses down the shore, on the beach, get an exchange. So talk about how important it is to look at your home as a business that you can actually draw money off of as you're living in it, and don't even have to really fuck with it.
Yeah, absolutely. So this is something this is my main message I try to get to my community, is that let's go out there. Let's be the homeowners of properties. Let's, as opposed to being the tenant and paying someone else's mortgage, building someone else's equity, let's be the homeowners of properties and start building our wealth. Because simply by owning real estate, you're building wealth. You pay down the mortgage, your properties tend to appreciate over time. And so I've approached that for every house that I lived in. I lived in North Plainfield. I've lived in Piscataway. I've lived in Hollywood, Florida, in Weston, Florida, and Pembroke Pines. And so every 2 years and a day, right? Every 2 years in a day, if you own your personal residence, every 2 years in a day, you can resell your property and make up to $500,000 on your property tax-free, right? Because it's your personal residence. Now you can go out, you can sell it, recuperate that money, and use that money to buy another property and start building your wealth, building your equity, right? And getting to the dream house you ever wanted. So that dream house is not impossible, guys. It's just implementing this plan. My wife hates it, right? My wife hates it because every couple years, or we end up moving because I pull the equity out of the house that we're living in to get a better house, a nicer house. They live on the better block, have the better location, have a lower mortgage, whatever it is that I'm looking for at that time. And I use the house to build my wealth. We have investment properties, but I treat our house as an investment property as well. So every 2 years in a day, guys, the house you live in, all right, you can resell that property and not pay any capital gains, not pay any taxes on up to $500,000 in profit on that house. That's huge. That's a big loophole that will allow you to build some significant wealth through your own personal residence.
And that's something I learned from, the Purple Book. I keep going back to it, but because he talked about that, I'm like, what? I mean, I could sell my house, buy a better
yes,
and not have to pay any capital gains. I'm like, that can't be right. Until I looked it up and talked. I'm like, it doesn't sound right. You know what I mean? Yeah. It shouldn't be like that. So, let's talk about, because I got my house because I'm a veteran. I got the VA loan, no money down, no PMI, walked right in the house. So have you dealt with, because a lot of our audience are veterans,
sure.
What are your thoughts on the VA loan?
I think they're phenomenal, right? It gives opportunity to people to become homeowners and start building wealth. Veterans, they commit time, they make sacrifice for our country, for us, right? So we can live in this amazing country, and they deserve that kind of benefit. For investors, if you're going to take on a veteran loan, there's a couple things you need to consider. There's something called the 90-day flip rule. So if you're buying a home, renovating and reselling it, you've had to have owned that house for minimum 90 days if you don't want to be capped. All right, on how much you can resell it for. So just keep that in mind, right? It means the day you accept the contract needs to be 91 days post your closing when you bought it. That's one. And if you're going to renovate it, 90 days is not a long time anyway. And many times that's going to, be eating up to your renovation time. The second thing to consider, guys, is that when the VA comes in, they're going to do an inspection on the home. If there's things like chip paint, mechanical issues, whatever it is that on the home, if you didn't do a complete renovation on it, they're going to ask you to fix that stuff. So you need to have the budget set aside to take care of those inspections. But it's a beauty of a process to work with. Sometimes I'll order 2 appraisals on a VA loan because they're doing 100% financing, like you said, and you just need to be ready to weather those storms. But if you take those offers from those VAs, it just allows your properties to sell that much faster, and it really helps you tighten up your stuff because it just makes sure you're doing your rehab right, so it doesn't get called out on these VA inspections.
And like I said, I have my friend David Pierre on. From military to millionaire, and something he says, he's like, I'll buy a 10-plex and I'll stay in one apartment and I'm going to rent the other 9 out. And he said, and now I think he's got up to 1,000 doors. He's like, but that's what he does. He's like, I don't pay rent. He's like, I'll make other people pay rent for me. And I know now with the VA loan, I think you can get up to a 4-plex.
That's right.
So you might even be able to, live in 1, rent out 3, and pretty much pay your mortgage, have somebody else pay your mortgage. OPM, baby. Exactly. Other people's money.
OPM, baby. Let's go. That's the best way to do real estate, right? Or to invest, period. Yeah, no, house hacking is awesome. If you can get a multifamily, if you want to buy your first property, it doesn't need to be a property that you're never going to see. It could be the house that you live in to make it as your first investment. And getting a multifamily like that is an ideal way. We did the same thing actually for my dad. When he wanted to retire, he didn't have a huge savings. So what we did is we helped him. We found the multifamily. My dad lives in Newark, New Jersey, right on Camp Street. And we found the multifamily for him. It was 3 units, and he lived in 1 floor and rented the other 2 units out. And the rent from those other 2 units covered the mortgage, covered the utilities, and he actually had a surplus of a couple $100s a month. So he didn't have to eat away at whatever savings he had. All right. And Social Security and whatever savings he had is more than enough to cover him for his day-to-day going forward. So he didn't have to eat up his cash. He didn't have to eat up his savings. He didn't have to struggle to make payments because the place covered itself. And that's a beautiful way to make your first investment. And guess what? The property doubled in value over the last 10 years. So it was a pretty good investment on his part as well. When he said he wanted to retire, I was like, we're not going to let you buy a house, Dad. We're going to get a multifamily so that you can house hack and not have to pay for your living expenses. And I think that's a phenomenal way for new investors to get started in the game.
All right. So let me know if you ever heard this before. People will say, well, I don't want to be a landlord. I don't want to be fixing the toilet bowl at 3:00 in the morning. What do you say if you've ever heard that before?
I've heard that so many times. I hear people saying, I'm not trying to be a landlord. It's too much work. I don't want to take the calls. Well, don't. All right. I have 600 doors. Do you think I'm the one taking the calls when there's a toilet that's leaking, at 3:00 in the morning? No. You put systems in place. You can hire a property manager, let them take the calls. You can, put an answering service in if you don't want to hire a management company. It's all about how you structure your business. And that goes back to the E-Myth, right? We're talking about. If you're the one that needs to go in there and change that toilet or fix a leaky sink, then yes, it's going to be frustrating. Yes, it could be overwhelming. But if you put systems in place, it doesn't have to be you doing it. All right. And there's great property management companies out there that will do all this for you. Of course, they'll charge you a fee, but allows it to be streamlined so that you can scale, so you can grow your portfolio. What I like to do when we buy rental properties is we like to put the renovations up front so it minimizes those calls down the line. Right. So the biggest things that tend to be issues on rental properties are leaks, right, our electric issues, and our pests. So we put certain clauses in our leases that say any repair under $100, don't call us. That's your responsibility, tenant. All right. So if there's a leak, a clogged toilet, let them call a plumber to go plunge it. Right. If there is a light bulb that's out, you don't want to take that call, but that comes from experience. Right. So you only learn this after getting some of those calls and update your lease. So there's a lot of things you could do. I think that if you are going to do it yourself, taking 1 or 2 calls a month to deal with an issue is a lot less work than what many people are doing at their 9 to 5, at their corporate job, right? To make a lot less money in the long term when it comes to the real estate space.
Okay, so let's talk about team building. I'm
Absolutely.
a retired military guy. I always figured that the weakest link in my team, that's the one that's going to get us killed.
Yeah.
So, but for me, in order to run a top-notch podcast, and a business, a public speaking business, I need a team. I need somebody that can do my graphics. I need somebody that can do my promotions. I need a lawyer. I need an accountant. I need, like a lot of podcasts, they have an LLC. We have an S corp because we're running it as a business. This is not a hobby. This is a business. Mm-hmm. But I need my team. Even because like we're talking about with Georgetown. Jeff Green is not going to get a shot off unless somebody gets it to him.
Exactly.
So sometimes you need that guy doing the dirty work, like a Dennis Rodman or something, that can get the ball out to Jeff so he can shoot. So how important is it to build a team?
Oh man, that is extremely important. You in any real estate, if you're in real estate, there's certain people that are going to be crucial to your business, right? You want to get a good handyman on you. If you're buying rentals, you want to get a good handyman on your team. So you're not the one actually going out there and dealing with these repairs. You want to get a great realtor on your team, right? I actually like working with realtors that are not necessarily in the business for many years, but are younger in the business and they're hungry. So they're willing to go out there, really hit the pavement and help you find deals. You want to get an inspector on your team, right? Who can go out there and do home inspections for you. So you know what you're getting yourself into. Right. You want to get a great title company or attorney, depending which state you're in. So that's investor friendly and is going to process your deals at a reasonable price and do a good job. Right. These are just a couple of them. And depending on which avenue you take in real estate, you might want to get a general contractor if you're going to be doing building and big jobs. You might want to get a stager when you go to resell the homes, right? So these are just some of the people you're going to want put on your team. Not all these people require a salary, by the way. They get paid on a by use, and some of them get paid a commission. So you don't have to pay them up front. They get paid when you get paid. So It's awesome. They're doing all this work and they get paid at the end when you get paid, when money's flush. Because when you're starting, money can be tight, right? So building the right team is absolutely crucial. It's going to allow you to grow. It's going to allow you to do deals, and it's going to allow you not to pull your hair out. In the beginning, I didn't have a team. That's why my hair's like this, right? So, but definitely need that team so you're not overwhelming yourself in the space.
All right, so let's talk about the market. We're in the second half of November of 2024, and I have a friend, personal friend, one of my best friends. His name is Kumar. Mm-hmm. He wants to sell his house. He can get top dollar, but in New Jersey, there's very little inventory, and he's getting outbid left and right. Like my brother-in-law went to buy 6 houses and got outbid 6 times, and they got $100,000. They found a house but paid $100,000 over asking. Now, obviously, that Florida may be different, but I know in New Jersey, New York, because everybody's moving over from New York, because everybody's working from home, so they can afford to live in New Jersey. So, what are some of the trends that you are seeing in the market as of today in November of 2024?
Yeah. Yes. In many parts of the country, it's definitely a seller's market, right? They're getting the price they want, getting above the price they want, and the market can be tight. But that's why over the past 15 years, over 95% of the purchases that we did were off market direct to owner. So I teach people how to find homes direct to owner so you don't have to deal with that competition that you're talking about right now. All right. A homeowner can do the same thing. I did the same thing when I wanted to buy this house I was just telling you about. So what you want to do is if you pick a neighbor that you want to be in, let's say you want to be in Scotch Plains, or you want to be in, Westfield, New Jersey. I'm only saying cities because you're from Jersey and I'm a Jersey boy too, right? And you want to be in those cities. Pick the city you want to be in, and then find different situations that make a seller motivated, all right? And reach out to those sellers directly. So one great situation that we love to do that most people don't do this, right, is people that are delinquent on their water bills. All right. Did you know that if someone is delinquent on their water bill, it's a great lead source? Why? And I'm not just talking about 1 month delinquent, right? If someone has a $2,000 or $3,000 water bill in their home, guess what? It probably means that the water's off, right? And if the water's off, what does that also mean? That the house is likely vacant. Okay. So, and that's someone that no one else is targeting because they don't know that. If they are still living there, it means that they're financially distressed. They need to sell this house. They need your help. So you can reach out to them, make a win-win situation happen. You get them, you fix their financial problem, and you get a great price at that matter. And you get this deal before the general market even knows it's out there. Right. So that's one. Your listeners might be saying, where do I find the delinquent water list? Right. There's 2 places you can go. One, some counties will literally let you go into the water department and they have this saved delinquent water bills. You can just ask them for it. If your county doesn't have it, you can go to the recorder's office where people go and file liens, mortgages, and things like that on the house and look for recent utility liens filed. If your water bill gets high enough, the county places a lien on the property so that if the house gets sold or refinanced, they get paid in full. It's the same exact thing. All right. Phenomenal lead source that nobody else is targeting. I'll give you guys one more. All right. Is it okay if I give some more nuggets?
Bro, you can drop all the nuggets you want, because after I get done with this, I'm going to listen to this again and again. So drop as many nuggets as you can.
I'll give you 2 more lead sources that we bought, 1,000 deals plus using this lead source. And it's something that people aren't doing. So if you own real estate almost anywhere in the country, right, you have to pay property taxes. If you don't pay those property taxes, the county will auction off your property for the taxes that you owe, right? So we actually go to the county, the tax collector's office, and we look at properties that are being auctioned off for taxes, either for tax deed or tax lien, whichever phase is fine, right? And you might say, oh, great, Sayam, I'm going to go and bid on these auctions. No. That's the wrong thing. If you've ever been to an auction, there's hundreds of people there bidding on the same properties. There's competition, just like you have in the general market. I like to take that list of properties coming to auction and market to them directly weeks before, right? Through direct mail, through cold calling, whatever it is, text messaging. A text message goes a long way. Send them a DM on Facebook, all right? And say, hey, I noticed your tax auction is coming. Have you resolved that situation yet? If not, I have a solution that'll pay off your taxes and put some money in your pocket so you can move on to your next situation in life stress-free. If you reach out to 100 people going to tax auction, you're going to get some responses, and all you need is one to say yes, right? And it's the area you're targeting anyway that you want to be in. So, and when someone's delinquent on their taxes, it means one, they're financially distressed. And many times it also means that they don't have a mortgage on the house. So if they don't have a mortgage, that's a lot of room you can play with to negotiate and make a deal happen. All right. If you make a mortgage payment, I mean, you have a VA loan, right? You're paying your taxes, your insurance, and your principal and interest. Right. So if there's no taxes being paid, it usually means more often than not that there's no mortgage on the home. And that's a great starting point for negotiation. All right. So that's two. I'll give you guys one more and we'll keep going. All right. So this actually gets me excited. I hope you can see the excitement in my voice as I'm telling you this stuff, right? Because this is what I do all day, every day in our business. And this is what I teach people how to do. And it produces the same results. Anywhere in the country, this works. All right. It works if you were in Seattle, if you're in New Jersey, if you're in New York, if you're in Miami, if you're in Chicago, all these systems work, guys. I'm telling you. The third best way to get deals, and this is actually one that's probably the easiest to reach out to because there's a lot of them out there, is you target retiring landlords. All right. People that have owned homes for 20 years plus, right? And they have not traded or sold those homes in those 20 years. And then you add a second piece to it. They live out of state. So look at landlords that live out of state that haven't sold it for 20 years. Why? Because if you owned a home for 20, 30, 40 years, chances are you paid much less for that home at that time than what I can offer you today. So if they paid 30 grand for a home, in Willingsboro, New Jersey, 30 years ago, and I offer them $100,000 today, but that home is really worth $200,000 after you put a little bit of money into it, they're already winning at my $100,000 offer. And they've been collecting rent in the home for 30, 40 years. So, they've already got their money back many times over. Phenomenal lead source. And how you find this is most counties publish what's called a rental contact list. You can find it online many times. Just ask the local county, the property appraiser, auditor site, and you ask them, how do I get the rental contact list? I want a list of all landlords in my county. And they'll tell you, maybe you got to pay for it. Maybe you go to their website and download it. Or if you're in Columbus, Ohio, you just download it from the auditor site. If you're in Atlanta, Georgia, you download it from their site as well. If you're in Broward County, you email the county and they email you a spreadsheet back of the landlords you're looking for. All right. And you can filter saying, I only want 3-bedroom homes. I only want single family. I only want townhomes. Whatever you're looking for, they can filter that and they send it back to you and they charge you $25 for the work to generate the list. That's nothing, right? That's literally a dinner out, right? And not a very expensive place. So this works everywhere, guys. You target that list and you market to them and you make a deal. And can I give one more little piece?
Bring it, baby. Bring it.
All right. So on this retiring landlord stuff, I've been able to structure hundreds of deals where we didn't have to bring any money to the table to buy it. Just a few $1,000s for closing costs. Like maybe a VA loan, right? We went out and got a loan from a hard money lender or a private money lender, like a rental lender or a hard money lender, right? And we got the loan and they bring, let's say, 80% of the purchase price. And then I talked to this landlord and said, look, you bought this home 30 years ago, you paid $30,000. I'm going to pay you $100,000 today, but I'm going to give you $80,000 now. And I'll pay you the last $20,000 over the next 5 years, right? So you'll give me a second mortgage and give me what's called the seller holdback. So why is this beneficial for them? They get to defer the taxes on that $20,000. They make a little bit of interest on top of that $20,000, all right? And they get majority of the money up front, which is already profit for them. And many of them don't need the money. They just want to move on. They want to get out the business. They want to retire, whatever it is, right? Stop management, whatever it is. And I've been able to buy over 300 properties with this exact strategy and not use a lot of money, right, to do it. And it works. So if you're making $1,000 in rent on that home and you pay the mortgage, the taxes, all right, and you have an extra, $300-$400 a month in cash flow, and then maybe 100 and 150 that goes to the seller to pay that down over 3 to 5 years, you still have $250 a month of cash flow on that home. and you're building equity, and that seller's out of it over the next 3 to 5 years. It's a phenomenal way to build rentals. So if you're grinding against everyone, if you're fighting for a deal on the market, sometimes you get a great deal on the market, but most times you're competing, like you said, your brother and various people are. I like to go and find deals off market, direct to owner, and lock in a deal before the market everyone hears that, sees the deal is out there.
I love it. And I just got a text from one of my friends, and he said, Rich, you're talking about buying $1 million home. And I said, yeah, I am. And I just wanted, if you're out there, if you're a veteran and you're 100% disabled, in the state of New Jersey, you pay 0 property tax.
Nice.
So 0 property tax on $1 million home. Your mortgage is not going to be as insane because you're not paying that property tax.
Yes.
So, but if you don't have shows like this where we talk about this stuff, then you're never going to know. That's why, Sayam, I'm so grateful that we got a chance to hang out. But let's talk about because with real estate, like for me, I'm building my wealth through my own home.
Sure.
And I think that people should also start actually thinking themselves as being their own bank. And I think that you talk about that a lot, right?
Yes, absolutely.
So talk about how a person of color can be their own bank.
Absolutely. Look,
and the only reason I'm asking this is because I've heard you talk about this.
Yeah, there's various different ways, guys. Right? If you work a job, I'll talk about 2 different options. If you work a job and you have a pension or a 401k, right? A lot of people think you can't tap into that money, but you absolutely can. Right? You can literally borrow from yourself. You can borrow against your pension. You can borrow against your retirement account to get into the real estate space. If you don't have the money to do it, don't have the down payment money, there's always ways to find it. That's one. And you can borrow it at very, very low rates because many times you can set the interest rates, right? Because you're literally paying it back to your retirement account. Also, if you have a retirement account, you can actually roll that money over. Okay, you can roll that money over to what's called a self-directed account. And you can use that retirement account to buy real estate. Right. So you have 20, 30, 50, $100,000 in your retirement account. You can tap into that money to buy real estate. And if you buy real estate with your retirement account, guess what? All the profit, the rents, the interest that you're paying in loans to yourself, it goes into your retirement account tax-free or tax deferred, depending which type of account you have. That's one. The second thing is you can tap into the equity of your house. So if you do get into the home ownership side and you do end up owning real estate, you own the house you live in, real estate tends to appreciate over time. Yes, you have little dips here and there because any market has little dips. But if you look at real estate 10 years ago, 20 years ago, and you look at real estate today, I can almost guarantee in almost every part of this country, it's worth more than it did 10, 20 years ago, right? And as real estate goes up, you can tap into that equity and use the equity from your house to be the bank to go out and do deals. You can refinance the home. You can get a HELOC, a home equity line of credit on the home, right? You can get private lenders to put liens on the home if you want to go to that extent. So there's so many different ways you can tap into that equity, all right, to be able to go out there and do real estate. So if you don't want to do real estate, if you don't do real estate, it's really because you don't want to do real estate. It's not because you can't, because everyone can. I truly believe that everyone has the opportunity to do this business. You just have to educate yourself and then go out there and implement on the education you're getting.
And of course, everybody needs a place to live.
Exactly.
So either you're paying rent or you're being paid rent.
Exactly.
But, let's talk about, because, one thing that I teach my kids, I got a 22-year-old, I got a 19-year-old, and I got a 13-year-old. And I'm teaching them now, you got to build your credit. Like for me, and I gave this example last week, when I went to buy my last car, I wrote on a sheet of paper, I went to the dealer, I'm like, my credit score is 840. This is what I want, no money down. This is the car payment I want. Don't even run my credit because I already have it. Can you do it or not? He said, I don't think I can. I picked up a sheet of paper and I went to go walk away. But he's like, wait, hold on. But because I knew I had an 840 credit, that I had leverage.
Yes.
And when you have good credit, you have a lot of leverage. So talk about building your credit and teaching the people in the Latino and also, in colored households, how they need to build up their credit, even, coming up through high school and then getting through college. So when they do go buy a house, oh, wait, you got an 800 credit score? All right, which house do you want?
Yeah, the credit is absolutely, it's huge, right? It's not needed to do your first deal if you can use hard money, but it absolutely helps the situation, right? So when you want to go out there and buy your first house that you're going to live in, then if you have an 800 credit score, a 750 credit score, it's kind of like the doors just open for you, and they're like, just here, which one do you want, right? You get the underwriting is easier. You get better interest rates on your loan, which means a lower payment that you're going to end up having on that house. When you go, you're going to have credit cards thrown at you. So if you need to do renovation, you can use those credit cards to renovate the home, right? There's credit cards that have check writing abilities. So you can literally do your entire renovation on a credit card, and you can write checks to your contractors from your credit card. So when you have good credit, all right, it gives you so much more money out there that you have that is available to you if you to go out there and do deals. So it's absolutely important. And then when you want to scale to larger deals and start doing, multifamily, whatever other deals you want to do online, right? This good credit obviously helps in that regard. So if you don't have credit now, right, go out there and get a prepaid credit card and start building your credit. You use it, you pay it. You use it, you pay it, and make sure it reports to your credit. There's things like Experian Boost that you can do where you can add utility bills to your credit to help have some history on your credit. And then the ultimate way to really boost your credit is if you know someone that has a great credit score and has a couple credit cards, you can ask them to put you on as an authorized user, right? You don't actually need the card. All right. So let's just say, Richard, you have a $20,000 credit card with Bank of America. You can say, hey, Bank of America, I want to add Sayam Ibrahim as an authorized user, but send the card to my house, to your house, right? So I never even need the card. Okay. And I get a credit card under that credit card. But guess what? Now all that credit history from that $20,000 credit card you have shows up on my credit, and it boosts your score dramatically. So if you want to lower your credit card usage, a great way to get more credit available to lower your usage on your credit score, to boost your credit score. If you want to have just more positive history, another way to do that is being the authorized user. So there's so many ways to go out there and build your credit and really maximize the opportunities that are there for you by building credit. You just have to go out there, like I said, and educate yourself and then implement on that education.
I love it. So the last thing I want to talk about is, without Sean Anthony, without Sam Rivera, we wouldn't be talking today.
That's right.
And I'm a relationship guy. I love building generational relationships. But in business, I think relationships are way, way more important, because I know I have friends that work in the tax office, and I know if something comes across and they see it, they're going to be like, Rich is looking for a place. Mm-hmm. So let me talk to Rich before this even hits the MLS or anything like that. Or also, I know that if general contractors, if I work with them and I pay them well and I don't penny pinch, that when they might walk into a house and they're working on a house and they hear the owner say, yeah, we're going to try to sell this house when you're done. Mm-hmm. They're going to reach out to me and say, hey, Rich, absolutely, I know this house is about to go on the market. Why don't you talk to them? So talk to us about how important building real relationships are, how to build real relationships and not just transactional relationships.
Absolutely. Build real relationships. Send postcards when it comes to the holidays, right? If you're in town with this, just reach out to the person, grab a coffee. You establish long-term relationships and see how you can provide value to those other people. By providing value to those people, guess what? In return, you end up getting value from them long-term. And don't do it with the intention of saying, what am I going to get out of it? Really say, how can I help you? And when you genuinely help people, I'm a big believer in karma, right? So I'll give you guys an example. So a couple years back, it was around the holidays, and the mail lady from my neighborhood, she was driving by and she looked stressed. She looked like she was mad. And I said, what's wrong? And she said, I'm tight. I don't have the money for the holidays for my kids' gifts. So I said, how about this? You drive around the entire neighborhood. All All right. You know every house in the neighborhood. You see the mail of every house in this neighborhood. I want you to send me a text message with any homes that look distressed, right? That look vacant. Send me the address. If I buy, I'll give you $1,000, right? And Rich, do you know how many houses this lady sent me? I ended up buying 2 houses in the next 30 days and gave her $2,000 so she had the money to go ahead and pay for her Christmas gifts, right? So I offered a helping hand. In the end, it helped me as well, and it was a win-win situation. So business relationships is all about win-win or no deal, right? It's got to be something that you can offer value to people, and in the end, your business will thrive as a result. So I highly recommend you go out there and start building relationships, networking. Your net worth is your network, right? So if you go out there and start meeting people, you will see your real estate business or whatever business you want to be in just naturally start growing and thriving, right? Because of the contacts you're putting together.
I love it. So the last thing I just want to ask, because this is a teaching podcast. So it is second half of November 2024. If I am a person of color, if I'm Latino, what would be your top 3 pieces of advice if I want to get into the real estate market?
Absolutely. So the top 3 pieces of advice if you want to get into the real estate market is number 1, go out there and start looking at houses, right? Go out there and start looking at houses, get familiar with looking at homes. Just go out there and start doing it, and then go out there and start making offers, right? You don't need to have everything lined up to do a deal, right? And maybe the first deal doesn't pan out. Maybe the second deal doesn't pan out, but believe it or not, one of them is eventually going to come together, right? So go out there and start making offers. As a new investor, as a Latino, as an African American, as anyone out there, you are offer machines. Your entire focus should be going out there and making offers on properties. If you're going to focus on properties on the market, that's fine. You need to make a little bit more offers to get a deal if that's the case, right? Because there's competition, but you can still land a deal. Number 1, just make offers. All right. So go out there, commit, and then figure out the rest later, right? So when you're making these offers, just make sure you build in time. You build an inspection period on your contract so that you can back out if for some reason you find something that's not great, right? But just go out there and make offers. That's 1. All right. Action takers are money makers. So if you're not making offers, you're not taking action, you're not going to make money, right? So that's 1. The second thing is network, kind of alluding to what we just talked about before. Go out there and network, meet people, right? There's something called Real Estate Investment Association meetings, or REIA. All right. So in every county, they have them. Just Google Real Estate Investment Association meetings and make it to one of those meetings, right? You'll be surprised if there's 300 people at that meeting, guys. All right. If there's 300 people at that meeting, that's 300 contacts you could be adding to your network. There's going to be lenders out there. There's going to be contractors. There's going to be sellers, wholesalers, title companies. You can build your entire network to start your real estate business by simply going to a couple of these meetings, right? Go to meetup.com and search real estate meetings in your county and go make it a goal to attend some of those meetings. If you're serious about getting the space, if you're serious about changing your future, if you're serious about building wealth for you and your family, go out there, network, and start building your team. That's 2. And the third thing, all right, the third thing is believe in yourself. You can do it. All right. You can do it. You got to build the belief, build the confidence. Because I said earlier, if you believe you can, if you think you can, if you think you can't, you're right. So build the confidence in yourself, believe in yourself. It's worked for many people before you, and it will work for many people after you as well. Right. All you have to do, the only difference to me and some of you guys that are just getting started is I started 15 years ago. Right. Now's your time to shine, guys. Now is always the best time to buy real estate. Now stands for no opportunity wasted, guys, right? So now is your opportunity to get into real estate. So let's not waste this opportunity. Let's go out there. Let's buy our first properties. Let's buy our second properties. Let's become the owners of the properties. So as Rich said, we can start receiving rent instead of paying rent and start building a nice nest egg for us and our families. Everyone can do it. Everyone has the opportunity. You just have to go out there and take action.
Well, Sayam, something I always say, like my big flex is when people ask me about myself, I don't talk about myself. I just say, Google me.
Yes.
And like Sherry says, Sayam is an awesome mentor. So you could say to the top of your lungs that you're the best, but when you have somebody like Sherry saying that you're the best, that's when it's the real deal, Holyfield.
Thank you, Sherry. Much appreciated.
So now, how do we find you? How do we support your mission? And for me, like I have my show has millions of downloads. We're all over the place. So I have somebody that wants to be mentored. You can hire me, and you don't have to go through all the crap mistakes that I've made. I can just get you to the top. Absolutely. So if somebody wants to hire you or get into your coaching system or get into your ecosystem, how do we find you?
Yeah, so I'm on all the social media platforms. So if you're on Instagram, right, my Instagram name is IAM period spot Sayam SAYAM. So follow me and comment hero on any one of my posts, and you'll get access to my free masterclass where I show people the exact steps to buy your first property. That's one. All right. Number two, I'm on TikTok. Same thing. IAM period spot Sayam for my TikTok. And I recently started a YouTube channel. All right. It's Professor Sayam. And so I recently started a YouTube channel, and I'm giving out free nuggets almost on a daily basis, and I'm posting consistently. So follow me on subscribe to my YouTube channel. Either way, get with me. I'm happy to help you buy your first property, and I am confident, guys, that everybody can do this. All right. I've seen many people do it before, and I know you can do it too. Right. You just have to believe in yourself. You have to take action, and the rest kind of falls in place.
Brother, as you know, I'm following you everywhere. Every which way, I'm following you. I just want to say thank you, and I want to thank your bride for letting me get a couple, get some time. So I just want to say thank you. I want to say thank you, Sam Rivera. Thank you, Sean Anthony. Thank you, Celsius. And guys, like I said, if you're a winner, pick up the T-shirt that says "I win." And the reason why I have this T-shirt that I wear this every day is on the show is I love what Joel Osteen said, that every day we wake up, we have a choice. We could be a victor or a victim. And people that listen to my show, they're no longer victims of their past. They're victors of their present and their future, and they win. So, guys, if you want to pick up your shirts, pick up your shirt. 100% of the proceeds go to help veterans struggling with homelessness and suicide. Brother, I just want to say, Sayam, I could talk to you for hours. And I would love for when I get down to Florida to be able to have lunch, get dinner together, hang out, and hopefully we could build a generational relationship from this point on.
Thank you, Richard. And the pleasure was all mine. I appreciate you having me on, and I look forward to, meeting you in person down here in Florida, or next time I come to Jersey.
There you go. I love it. And guys, make sure you hang out for the rest of the day. I got one more episode coming out. This is going to knock your socks off. Going to teach you how to be a dangerous but moral man. That's coming up next. And guys, remember, vertical momentum. The only way to go is up. I love you guys. Have an amazing week.
Let's go, y'all. Thank you.
All right, brother. Have a great week.